It was a warm August morning, with the sun already high in the sky, when Vanessa Marcotte woke up at her mother's house in Princeton, a small town surrounded by dense forests and trails she loved so much. Vanessa had planned a peaceful weekend, a welcome break from the busy life in New York, where she worked at her dream job at Google. With some free time before her bus back, she decided to do what always relaxed her: a run along the wooded road near her mother's house. The morning started with a light mist over the trees, which gradually lifted, revealing the tranquil beauty of the woods. Vanessa, dressed in running clothes and her headphones, waved to her mother before heading out the door. "I'll be back in half an hour, Mom," she shouted, not knowing these would be her last words at home. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and the path Vanessa chose was almost deserted, except for a few birds singing and the distant sound of a running river. As Vanessa moved further away from the safety of home, something seemed to change in the environment. The trees seemed to lean a little more, creating long shadows that covered the path. The silence became almost palpable, as if the forest was holding its breath, watching her every step. Still, Vanessa felt at peace, enjoying the feeling of freedom that running gave her. But the promised half hour passed quickly, and when Vanessa did not return, her mother began to feel a twinge of concern. Maybe she stopped to talk to someone, she thought, trying to reassure herself. But when she tried to call Vanessa and found only the silence of a voicemail, the anxiety began to grow. The town was small and safe, but something seemed wrong, very wrong. The clock ticked 1 hour after Vanessa's departure, and her mother had already tried contacting friends and relatives, but no one had seen her. That's when the despair began to set in, and she called the police, explaining in a trembling voice what had happened. The search began quickly, with friends and neighbors joining the police, all scouring the area with flashlights and voices calling for Vanessa in the dark, dense forest. As the daylight began to fade, fear turned to panic. Vanessa's bus to New York left at 5:30 p.m., but she wasn't on it. Something terrible had happened, and everyone feared the worst. The small town, known for its tranquility, was about to be thrown into a nightmare that no one could have predicted. The search through the forest intensified as the hours passed with no sign of Vanessa. The police dogs moved methodically through the terrain, while the flashlights flickered in the growing darkness. The residents of Princeton, usually accustomed to the peaceful routine of their town, now found themselves on high alert, fearing the unknown. Vanessa's father, a sturdy man who shared his love of nature with his daughter, was devastated. He joined the search, refusing to rest until his daughter was found. The tension in his eyes and the tremor in his hands betrayed the emotional storm raging within him. Every shout in the forest, every movement of the shadows seemed to carry the hope of finding Vanessa safe and sound. Finally, around 8:20 p.m., one of the search dogs began barking frantically, pulling its handler deeper into the woods. The group following stopped, holding their breath as the sound of barking echoed through the trees. In a shadowy clearing, they found what they feared: Vanessa's battered and silent body lying on the forest floor. The scene was devastating. Vanessa was dressed in only one sneaker. Her clothes and other belongings, including her headphones and phone, were missing. The signs of struggle were evident on her body, with burn marks and bruises indicating a desperate fight for her life. The cruelty of the act left everyone in shock, their minds struggling to comprehend the brutality Vanessa had faced. The detectives who arrived at the scene quickly realized they were not dealing with an ordinary crime. The burns on Vanessa's body, along with the smell of gasoline, suggested that the killer had attempted to destroy evidence. But for some reason, they were unable to complete the task. There was an overwhelming sense of urgency to find who had committed such an atrocity. The news of the murder spread quickly through Princeton, plunging the town into a whirlwind of fear and suspicion. Who could have done this in such a close-knit community? People began to look suspiciously at familiar faces, wondering if the monster was among them. The security they once felt was replaced by a disquieting sense of vulnerability. The days following Vanessa Marcote's murder were dark and filled with tension. The local police, in conjunction with state investigators, began an unwavering search for the perpetrator. The DNA found under Vanessa's nails was the main lead, a tenuous thread that promised to lead to the killer. However, the lack of a match in the FBI database made the case even more complex. Princeton's police chief, an experienced and respected man, called the community to a meeting at the town hall. "We need everyone's help," he said, his grave voice resonating off the auditorium walls. "If you see anything at all that might help us find who did this, please let us know." People began to question every little detail, every face they didn't recognize, every car that didn't seem to belong. Discussions in cafes and grocery stores revolved around theories and suspicions, while fear hung in the air like a thick, oppressive fog. The trust that once existed between neighbors was now fractured by doubts and uncertainties. One of the most promising leads came from a driver who reported seeing a dark SUV parked on the roadside the day Vanessa disappeared. A Latino man with short hair and a robust build stood next to the vehicle. "It looked like he was having car trouble," the driver explained. "But now that I know what happened, it seems very suspicious." Detectives followed this lead, tracking every vehicle that matched the description, interrogating drivers and checking alibis. However, nothing seemed to fit. The hours turned into days, and the pressure on the investigation team mounted. The town demanded answers, and with each passing day, the hope of finding the culprit dwindled. Despite the challenges, the investigation team remained focused and determined. They analyzed the schedules and routes of all possible suspects, mapped the areas around the crime scene, and re-interviewed everyone who might have information, no matter how small. It was an agonizing puzzle, with pieces that didn't seem to fit together. But even with each lead leading to a dead end, the detectives refused to give up. They knew that the truth was out there, somewhere waiting to be discovered. And they knew that, for Vanessa's family, justice was the only way to begin healing the wounds left by their devastating loss. After months of investigation without concrete answers, the discovery of surveillance footage brought a glimmer of hope to the case. At a ski resort a few miles from Princeton, a camera captured images of a man with visible scratches on his face. The video, anonymously submitted to the police, showed the man entering the building, nervous and looking around as if he feared being watched. Detectives carefully analyzed every frame of the video, trying to identify the suspect. The man, of Latino appearance, had an expression that mixed worry and aggression. The images were grainy but clear enough to reveal an identity that could finally link someone to the brutal crime. They soon discovered that the man in the video was Angelo Ortiz, a recent resident of Worcester, a neighboring city. Ortiz's appearance matched the description provided by witnesses and, most revealingly, he owned a black SUV similar to that described by several witnesses. The police acted quickly, locating him and monitoring his movements while gathering more evidence for a direct approach. The investigation team began to track every detail of Ortiz's life. He was a delivery driver, which meant he knew the area well and frequently visited Princeton. This explained his presence in town on the day of the murder. But what caught their attention was his uneasy behavior and background, which, despite being clean, carried rumors of inappropriate behavior towards women. Investigators requested GPS data from Ortiz's phone, and the revelations were shocking. On the day of Vanessa's murder, he was in the area where her body was found, exactly at the estimated time of death. Moreover, Bank records showed he purchased gasoline at a nearby station shortly after the crime, matching the accelerant used to attempt to burn evidence. With a court order in hand, police obtained a DNA sample from Ortiz. When the results finally arrived, the relief was palpable. Ortiz's DNA matched the one found under Vanessa's nails. With this confirmation, he was arrested, though the fight for justice was just beginning. Ortiz's arrest brought a mix of relief and anger to the community. While some felt justice was finally being served, others were outraged at the possibility the culprit might still escape. But for Vanessa's family, especially her mother, it was a crucial step in closing a painful chapter of their lives. The case of Vanessa Marcotte against Angelo Ortiz quickly gained national attention, not only for the brutality of the crime but also for the legal complexities that emerged. With Ortiz denying the charges, the trial promised to be a fierce battle between the prosecution and the defense, each side armed with its interpretations of the events. Ortiz's defense relied on questioning the legality of the DNA collection, claiming that due to the language barrier, he did not properly consent to the test. This claim threatened to invalidate the main evidence in the case, and if the judge agreed, it could result in Ortiz's release. The defense attorneys presented their argument with calculated precision, emphasizing the importance of proper legal procedures. The prosecution, on the other hand, focused on painting a clear picture of Ortiz's character and his actions on that fateful day. They brought forward testimonies from women who reported uncomfortable encounters with him, highlighting a pattern of predatory behavior. Additionally, Ortiz's GPS and gasoline purchase records were presented as crucial pieces of the puzzle that proved his presence at the crime scene. During the hearings, the courtroom was tense, with each statement carrying the weight of a community's hopes and a family's pain. Vanessa's friends and family were present in full force, their eyes fixed on Ortiz, searching for any sign of remorse or humanity. But instead, they found an impassive man who maintained his innocence, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. The prosecution's key witness was forensic analysis, which directly linked Ortiz to the crime scene. Experts explained in detail how the DNA found under Vanessa's nails was undeniable proof of the struggle she faced in her final moments. This evidence, combined with Ortiz's suspicious behavior and activities that day, became the core of the prosecution's argument. Finally, after weeks of arguments and deliberations, the verdict was announced. The courtroom was packed, everyone waiting with bated breath. When the judge declared Ortiz guilty, there was a collective sigh of relief. But even with the conviction, the pain of losing Vanessa persisted. A wound time would hardly heal completely. With Ortiz behind bars, the town of Princeton began to process the lasting impact of the crime. The horror of losing such a promising young woman as Vanessa had left deep scars, but it also ignited a fierce determination to turn the tragedy into a force for good. Her family, who had been thrust into the center of a storm of pain and injustice, now sought to channel that energy into something positive. The foundation created in Vanessa's honor grew rapidly, gathering efforts from across the country to promote women's safety and prevent violence. Initially focused on self-defense courses, the organization expanded to include education and support programs for victims of violent crimes. It became a network of hope and resilience, inspired by Vanessa's spirit. Vanessa's mother became a central figure in the movement, her personal pain fueling her determination to help other families. She frequently spoke at events, sharing her daughter's story not just as a victim but as an inspiration. Vanessa lives on in every step we take to make the world a safer place, she said, her voice resonating with strength and emotion. The case also served as a catalyst for changes within the judicial system. There was a review of DNA collection procedures, ensuring that cases like Ortiz's would not be compromised by procedural errors. Legislation was adjusted to strengthen protection and support measures for crime victims, ensuring their voices were heard and respected. For Vanessa's friends, time brought a new kind of acceptance. While the pain of her absence remained, their memories were now filled with the joyful moments they shared with her. They frequently gathered to reminisce about their adventures, honoring her life by continuing to live with the same passion and curiosity Vanessa displayed. In the end, Vanessa Marcote's story became more than a tragic murder. It was a narrative of love and loss, but also of courage and change. Her legacy continued to inspire everyone who heard her story, a constant reminder that even in the darkest moments, the light of hope and justice can prevail. Throughout Vanessa Marcote's story, we were confronted with the horror of her loss and the strength and resilience that emerged from such a devastating tragedy. This is not just a crime story. It's a call to action for all of us. How many times do we close our eyes to the dangers around us, thinking it will never happen to us or our loved ones? Vanessa could have been any of us, and this leads us to ask, what can we do to prevent stories like hers from repeating? Do you feel safe in your community? What are you doing to ensure the safety of your loved ones? This is the moment to reflect on how we can become more actively involved in our communities, promoting vigilance and protection for everyone around us. Maybe it's time to consider participating in community safety programs or volunteering to help organizations working to protect those at risk. Furthermore, how can we better support victims of violence and their families? Vanessa didn't have the chance to share her own story, but we can be the voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. By learning more about crime prevention and supporting safety measures, we can make a significant difference in our communities. Would you like to know how you can get involved and help prevent similar tragedies? Share your ideas and questions in the comments below. We want to hear from you and share practical ways to promote safety in our everyday lives. If this story touched you and you want to continue exploring important themes of safety and crime prevention, subscribe to the Spooky Stories channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay updated on our latest videos. Together, we can learn, reflect, and take steps to create a safer world for all. Your participation is essential, and your voice can be the catalyst for positive change. Thank you for watching and for being part of our community. We hope to see you again soon as we continue our mission to educate and inspire through stories that truly matter. Welcome to Spooky Stories. I'm Milo, your guide through the chilling and the unknown. Here, we dive into terrifying tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Join our community of thrill seekers, and let's explore the darkness together. Meet Sarah. Like many of us, she used to dread bedtime. Hours spent tossing and turning, waking up groggy and irritable, and worst of all, her relentless snoring that not only disturbed her sleep, but her partner's as well. Desperate for a solution, Sarah tried everything. New mattresses, white noise machines, even sleeping pills. Nothing worked until she discovered our breathing for sleep routine. One particularly frustrating night, Sarah stumbled upon an article about the power of breathing to improve sleep. Skeptical but willing to try anything, she read about our breathing for sleep routine, a simple, scientifically backed method designed to clear sinuses, enhance breathing, and eliminate oxygen blockades. It promised to guide users through a simple breathing routine for the best sleep of their lives. Intrigued, she decided to give it a shot. As she began the routine, Sarah immediately felt her sinuses clear. She followed the step-by-step guide, learning how to breathe deeply and correctly. Within minutes, she noticed a significant difference. Her breathing was smoother, more relaxed. That night, she fell asleep faster than she had in years and, incredibly, stayed asleep all night. One of the most astonishing benefits was the end of her snoring. The routine included a simple breathing hack that stopped her snoring in minutes. Sarah learned that her habit of mouth breathing was activating her survival mode, preventing her from achieving truly restful sleep. By switching to nasal breathing, she deactivated this mode and allowed her body to fully relax. The next morning, Sarah woke up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so well rested. Her partner noticed the difference too. No more middle-of-the-night disruptions from her snoring. The transformation was remarkable, and Sarah knew she had found something special. Sarah's story is not unique. Many others have discovered the life-changing benefits of our breathing for sleep routine. Imagine falling asleep quickly, sleeping soundly through the night, and waking up feeling fully rested. No more snoring, no more grogginess, just deep, restorative sleep. Are you ready to transform your sleep like Sarah did? Our breathing for sleep routine is easy to follow and starts working immediately. Clear your sinuses, enhance your breathing, and remove oxygen blockades with our guided routine. Say goodbye to snoring and hello to the best sleep of your life. Check out the link for this wonder in the description and the comments.